The Alliance has been led by Turalyon for years now, since the Shadowlands, with Anduin being in exile and searching for himself. But finally, after all this time, that is officially changing. The new Midnight book just came out with a preview, revealing some incredibly interesting new information. Most importantly, Turalyon has stepped down as the leader of Stormwind and the Alliance, while Anduin has finally returned back to Stormwind after all this time. We learned Turalyon didn't enjoy leading, he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, and now with the new light lore and alpha information, Blizzard is writing him in an oddly suspicious direction. In one scenario, he's even sort of a villain, not caring about civilians, and at the moment he's the leader of the Army of the Light, while he's also one of the leaders of the defense of Azeroth. Currently, we have the same interests, but if the Light decides to change, whose side is Turalyon going to pick? While having the best deals on the market for all games and software, Gamivo just added mobile top-ups for your favorite mobile games with the best prices that you can get, with my Gamivo link in the description below. Best of all, if you use my code DORON, your discount will be even bigger, so make sure to use my link in the description and the code and check out Gamivo. So quite a lot of things are happening on the Alliance side of things in the Midnight Alpha right off the bat, but also in the prequel to Midnight, which is the new book that is coming out in just a few days called The Blood Ties, which is all about Arator and his family, Turalyon, and everything that is coming in Midnight. Now, while the full book will come out in just a bit, we got some crucial pages in the actual preview promoting the book, with some really interesting updates to the post-war within storyline and some development on Arator and Turalyon. Personally, I find a bit of the Arator storyline cringe because he is in an interesting position. I mean, objectively, his mother is a powerful void figure, his father is a very powerful light one, so Blizzard is really pushing this angle, which can be interesting, but I do feel like it is getting a little bit tacky. I mean, this guy got like a tattoo showing both sides, the light and the void, and they're treating him like he's a teenager that is finding himself with his relationship with both parents. They're so different, but this dude is like 40 years old. I mean, I know elf years and all, but elves only live long, they don't mature when they're like 100 years old. However, that is a digression that is besides the point. Aside from the Arator story development, we are getting development finally with Anduin after the Shadowlands, and big news is that Turalyon is no longer the ruler of the Alliance in Stormwind. As you may remember, I mean, Anduin ruled for a very short time when Varian was gone, most notably during the big war in PFA. He was a pretty important leader. I mean, that was one of the most critical times for the Alliance, and then he was abducted and taken to the Shadowlands and was completely messed up, and since then, when we had freed him from the mind control, he has been missing for years, only returning now in the War Within to join in on the main storyline with Yarati, Khazagard and everything. Well, the new book confirmed that finally, after his years of exile and searching and everything, Anduin is finally back in Stormwind. He's around, but surprisingly enough, he has not formally reclaimed the title yet. The official lore right now is that Gan Greyman is actually currently in charge of Stormwind and the Alliance, but personally, I think this is really a much more temporary role, other than the, compared to the Regency that was under Turalyon, as he has been essentially nearly completely independent. I mean, Anduin is literally here, he is like literally in the Stormwind Keep, but he hasn't really taken the mantle yet. The book states that Turalyon actually didn't like ruling at all, he didn't enjoy the process whatsoever, he only accepted it because that is his duty as a paladin. We learn that Turalyon is an excellent general, a great leader of troops, but he is far too rigid to adapt to the fluid nature of politics, and apparently he has rubbed a lot of common folk the wrong way, so he was not exactly a popular ruler. Then we learn about Anduin, and we are told that a war is never without cost, and that Anduin realized at the time that the best thing for the Alliance was for him to temporarily step down, so he can return once he's ready to rule the whole faction, which is, I mean, realistically at any moment now. So right now, Gan Greyman is the Alliance ruler, with Anduin being right there, and I think it's going to switch real quick, probably like mid-expansion, we might see the return of the king in the game. However, some really interesting developments are happening in the Alpha and the new book with Turalyon as well. You guys probably heard about this theory for the longest time of how Turalyon may turn evil, because realistically, I mean, he is much more loyal to the light than he is to any human kingdom, but we never really know. First of all, the new book states that he was an orphan from a royal family out of Lordaeron, and that is when he found the light, and while he was a key figure in the Orcish Wars, since he went to Draenor and outside of our universe, he spent far more time with the Army of the Light, like at least tenfold leading the Light armies compared to whatever he was doing on Azeroth. So the theory was that the fact that he's still the main leader of the Army of the Light, that once the Light decides to do their thing, he's going to side with them more than he's going to side with us. And well, for quite a bit of time, I mean, this was really a shot in the dark. This happening soon is not actually that tinfoil hat anymore. Recently, we started getting the evil sides of the Light already, with the Light fanatics attacking us in the Midnight Alpha, and obviously Blizzard is setting something up with this bad side. I mean, this is not even a speculation. They told us in an interview that we will also see the bad side of the Light in this expansion as well, and this expansion is really as much about the Light as it is about the Void. Now, in the Alpha, recently Blizzard has been kinda going back and forth with the writing of Turalyon, but surprisingly, or not so surprisingly, there has been some writing where he could actually be set up as a villain. For example, during the opening moments of the expansion, we see the initial invasion of the Sunbelt. This is like the Broken Shore scenario that we had back in Legion. Here, his son Arator had this heroic moment where he disobeys the orders of his father Turalyon, because Turalyon ordered him to go to the front lines, but Arator decides that saving the civilians of Silvermoon is more important. Lord Tamar and Arator start saying that Turalyon is, kinda heartless, just like a battlefield commander, and the entire narrative is kinda pushing it like that he's a bit of a villain, as we side with Arator, as saving the civilians is more important. Arator then continues to disobey the orders of his father, and by the end, Arator starts doubting his fate in the Light as we defend the Sunwell, while Turalyon apologizes for involving us into family affairs. Now, of course, this is not the light-crazed Turalyon confirmed, like this is finally the bad guy. I mean, we do get a crazed Light faction led by Lotraxion, which I actually got a full video on that you can check out, and obviously Turalyon is not siding with Lotraxion, but here, there is a bit of a dilemma, as he cares more about battling the Void than saving civilians, but then again, I mean, battling the Void is actually saving the civilians indirectly. Turalyon is still here on the crossroads and no longer a leader of the Alliance, but one of the main leaders defending Azeroth from the Void invasion, but at the same time, he is also the main leader of the Army of the Light that has finally arrived to Azeroth. Now, really, at this point, it can really start going both ways. I mean, at the moment, we're likely that our interests align perfectly with the Army of the Light, but the question is though, what happens once that is no longer the case? What if the main Arrow guys decided that the Army of the Light should do something hostile to us? I mean, is Turalyon going to disobey, or is he going to side with Azeroth? With the way the writing is right now, it is incredibly hard to say. I mean, keep in mind that Turalyon is like hundreds of years old, way older than any human out there, and he's only that old because the Light is keeping him that way, so naturally he owes quite a lot to the Light. I mean, he literally owes them his life. So, at the start of Midnight, Gan Greyman is the temporary leader of the Alliance, with Anduin fully back in Stormwind, while Turalyon is going back and forth, but I think we will figure out his true allegiance at some point in Midnight. Thank you for watching. Check out my video on the Return of the Naga in Midnight that we just discovered in the Alpha by clicking on the screen, and check out my video on Greek mythology and the Titans that I've recorded live on site in Italy by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!